Go ahead.
Peace, brothers and sisters. I left off on point 11 as we're talking about Edward the Confessor and his relationship to here, what we call Jersey. Because he's the one who issued out the charges under the Great Seal of Rim to King James, and which he threw in the Thames River because he didn't want the so-called French to get it. And the French was overpowered by what they call Louis XIV, Louis XVI, and Napoleon and all that. This is the reason why the state of Louisiana is so important. This is why it's called Louisiana by the St. Louis. Because St. Louis the 16th, 15th, and the 14th come from a great line, a whole line of so-called Louis. And Louis VIII was the father of St. Philip of Augustus, which we see right here we just read about, which is the one who was warned with Henry II in lieu of overthrowing what we call England, and which where the flag of England comes from, by the creation of a white flag with a red cross in the background. That was under the authority of what we call the Kingdom of England. Why? Because it descended down to our ancestors, what we call Geoffery, Jefferson, which is modern English, and back to Old English called Godfrey. So as we read about Edward the Confessor is the great-grandson of King Edward the Peaceful, who was an Afro-Asiatic king, the only king in England to ever wear a crown. He's the only king in England to ever have a peaceful rim. He's the only king of England whose authority ruled from 959 to 1974 during our day and time. It says here, Edward the Confessor, also known as Saint Edward the Confessor, was among the last Anglo-Saxon kings of England. Did you hear that? This is the last known Anglo-Saxon king. So that means that if he died in 1066 and William the Conqueror took over, then he wasn't no Anglo-Saxon king.
Exactly.
He was from Norman French.
Family, do y'all hear that? The last Anglo-Saxon kings.
It says, usually considered the last king of the House of Wessex, he ruled from 1042 to 1066. The son of Ethelred the Unready and Amber of Normandy. Edward succeeded Newt the Great son in his own half-brother, Harthacnut, restoring the rule of the House of Wessex after the period of Danish rule since Newt, better known as Canute. He conquered England in 1016. When Edward died in 1066, he was succeeded by Harold Godwinson, who was defeated and killed in the same year by Normans under William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings. Edgar of Ethelring, who was of the House of Wessex, was proclaimed king after the Battle of Hastings in 1066, but never ruled and was disposed after about 8 weeks. Let's go down a little further. Paragraph 3. It says, historians disagree about Edward's fairly long 24-year reign. His nickname reflects the traditional image of him as unworldly and pious. Confessors reflect his reputation as a saint who did not suffer martyrdom, as opposed to King Edward the Martyr. Some portray Edward the Confessor's reign as leading to the disintegration of royal power in England and the advance in power of the House of Godwin. Due to the infighting that began after his earliest death, biographies Frank Barlow and Peter Rex, on the other hand, portray Edward as a successful king, one who was energetic, resourceful, and sometimes ruthless. They argued that the Norman conquest shortly after his death tarnished his image. However, Richard Mortimer, there you go, dead hands, argues that the return of the Godwins from exile in 1052 meant that the effective end of his exercised power, citing Edward's reduced activity as implying a withdrawal from affairs. So as we see right here, that we see that Edward the Confessor came to an end of his reign in 1066, and he was the last considered king of Wessex, then it switched to a feudal system under William the Conqueror. So let's go a little deeper in that. Let's go to Edward the Confessor's great-grandfather, King Edward the Peaceful. And King Edward the Peaceful's father was called Edmund I. Now, we're going back to the term counties or countries. The term country is the root of the word county. County was called shire, which was called wapentake. So let's go look up the term wapentake, which is the word county, and go back to the origin of where New Jersey get their 21 counties from, in lieu of its relationship to what we call England, which ruled from 927 till 1706 when it switched to Britain under the feudal system. Okay. see that, brother?
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds, county division. It says a hundred is an administrative division that is geographically part of larger regions. It was formerly used in England, Wales, and some parts of the United States. You hear that? Some parts of the United States. Denmark, South Schleswig, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and Norway. It is still used in other places, including South Australia and Northern Territory. Other terms for the hundreds in English and other languages include wapentake. Did you hear that? Wapentake. Let's go check out what that means. Matter of fact, we know it means county. So now we're going to link the so-called indigenous people in America identified as Indians or so-called Native American Indians and show you that my family, Jeffersons, were linked to what they call the counties which were established by our ancient ancestors. So what we're going to take you to the origin of how the United States got the term county, i.e. wapentake, by way of my ancestors, which my great-grandmother is going to link you to the term wapentake, which is actually called county, by way of King Edward the Peaceful, the king who looks just like me, who actually created the term wapentake, i.e. called county. Let's do it, brothers and sisters. Let's do it. This is House of Names, English and Irish descent. We know that King James was the 6th of Scotland, England, the 6th of England and the 1st of Scotland. I mean, the 6th of England and the 1st of Scotland, or vice versa, but he was the king of England and Scotland. So look that up and you can see how he got his daughter from House of Tudors under Henry VIII, whose daughter Elizabeth I passed it on to him, King James. Okay, my grandmother's name is Ruth Jefferson. My great-great-grandmother's name is Ruth Jefferson. Ruth Caprill. They all come from Mississippi. Mississippi, one came from Jew, Mississippi, one come from Columbus, Mississippi. Columbus, Mississippi has a river called the Mississippi River that runs all the way through what they call Kent, Ohio, all the way down to what they call Pennsylvania, which we understand that was under the jurisdiction of what they call we're gonna get to it. It's concept memory right now, but we know that the so-called Mississippi River runs all the way from Mississippi to Pennsylvania, and we understand that Pennsylvania was under what they call East Jersey and West Jersey. East Jersey and West Jersey became what we call New Jersey by way of the charter, and it was given this authority back by way of Queen Anne in 1702 when she gave the so-called federal government or overlapping government to what they call Viscount or Cornbury, who was the first senator for the New Jersey State Legislature, or New Jersey State Legislation. Okay, this is my grandmother's historical name, known as Ruth Jefferson. English. The surname Ruth was first found in Morayshire, i.e. county or wapentake, where they were held a family seat from early time, and the first records appearing on the early census rolls taken by the early kings of Britain to determine the rate of taxation of their subjects. So if they had subjects, that means that they were kings, landlords. Ruth is a parish in Union of Beverly North, division of Wapentake of Holderness in the East Riding of Yorkshire. Did you see that? So it mentions my grandmother's name originated or first found in Morayshire and what they call the county or what they call Wapentake. Let's look at the variations of the name. Spelling variations of the name Ruth. Spelling variations of the family nickname includes Randolph or Randolph and others. Did you hear that, brothers and sisters? Now this takes you back to, before I go into the so-called movie, let's go into the historical origin of the so-called name Randolph. Here we go right here. Randolph. History and Family Crest of Coats of Arms on the Family House of Names. It says the saga of Randolph family name begins among the people of ancient Scottish tribes called the Picts. The Randolph name is derived from the personal name Randolph, which contained elements that are translated to shield and wolf. Randolph, now they have what they call shields back then to denote to the family crest. And we understand that when you get into the history of Alfred the Great and all those who descended down from him, it's called folklore. This is why you get the story of Beowulf and stories like that, barbarians and things of that nature, because they needed a story to lynch on to the so-called kings and queens of the so-called history, but there are no records prior to that of King Alfred the Great. There is no record. You go right into so-called Roman history according to the Gregorian calendar, which has no calendar to 1582. So it says that Randolph is a patronymic surname which belongs to the category of hereditary name. Many patriotic surnames were formed by adopting the given name of an ancestor of the bearer, while others came from popular religious names and for names of secular heroes. Early origin of the Randolph family. The surname Randolph was first found in Moray, the same county where my grandmother's name was found, in Moray side, and under the county what we call Wapentake, which is named for county. So we know that the name Randolph was the name originated from the name Ruth. So now who was the grandfather of Jesus? Ruth. We understand that the term Wapentake goes back to the term county, which first was actually created under Edmund I, who was the great father, who was the grandfather of King Edward the Peaceful, which back in that time they called him Jesus. So it's mighty strange that Ruth was the grandfather of Jesus, and my great-grandmother name is Ruth. So let's go here. Back to Ruth for a second. Back to surname. Velling. Ruth spelling and variations of this family name includes Randolph, Randolph, and others. Okay, all right. Let's go to Edmund Randolph. Anybody heard of Edmund Randolph? Let's find out who this brother is. Edmund Randolph, Jenny Randolph. Because once I said again that Thomas Jefferson's mother's name was, last name or surname was called Skeleton, and his father's last name was called Randolph. Now, Thomas Jefferson's 19th great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was Henry I, who was the son of William the Conqueror of 1066. So it shows you that the Jefferson name does not belong to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was your founding fathers. He also was your third president. Let's look here. Edmund Jennings was an American attorney and politician. He was the 7th governor of Virginia, the 2nd Secretary of State, and the 1st United States Attorney General. Life and career. Randolph was born on August 10, 1753 to the influential Randolph family in Williamsburg. So now we know that Randolph is a name for Ruth. So how could he inherit the name Ruth Randolph when the origin of the name Randolph derives from Ruth? This is why, back to the movie Coming to America. Eddie Murphy his name was what? His father's name was Geoffery of Jefferson, and he was Prince Hakeem. So Jeffer is the same name Jefferson. When he flew over to so-called New York is broken. New York is actually a stitch on what we call York in England. And when he came from New York, once again he flew over on British line, and you notice that he wore gold. His father was Geoffrey of Jefferson. He was the king. So when he came to New York, he was trying to find his wife. And if you notice that one day they were walking on the pier, and there was 2 bums laying there. Now, the first Eddie Murphy movie Eddie Murphy played in was called Trading Places. And the same 2 individuals in the movie Coming to America was the same 2 individuals in Trading Places that switched places with Eddie Murphy. They were called Mortimer and Randolph. They were so-called bankers. And Eddie Murphy was told to take the place of a so-called, whatever that gentleman who was a so-called attorney or lawyer. And Eddie Murphy switched places with him. So in the movie Coming to America, you notice that when they were walking on the pier, and he gave the 2 individuals a couple of Federal Reserve notes, which we know is not money. That's debt. So now, being that those bankers only deal with debt. Of course, with instruments, which they are not allowed to make money, only people allowed to make money is the creditor, i.e. the beneficiary. So being that Eddie Murphy came from an heir, he was the benefit of the so-called assets belonging to you as being the heir. Which over in England, they didn't use fiat money. They used gold and things of that nature. But using a bill of exchange, he was able to send for an exchange over for Federal Reserve notes to get us thinking that there is able to be transferred, exchanged, but it can't be exchanged with a debt instrument because you can't pay a debt with a debt. So when he handed the money to Mortimer and Randolph, what did they say? He said Mortimer, and Mortimer was like, "I'm not talking to you, Randolph." He said, "Look, Mortimer." He handed him a plastic bag. He filled out Federal Reserve note. Then he said, "We're back. Check it out, brothers." He said, "We're back," meaning that they was do the rights of what they call head right. Corporations was able to, through the statute of mortmain, dead hands, to transfer the assets, which creates liability by way of your signature, which is on the public side, which creates an asset, which is a liability that can only be transferred back to the creditor who created it as what they call thin air. Check it out, GAAP, General Accepted Accountable Principle, which all corporations, all courts, all agencies must follow. Okay. So we established that the so-called Randolph and Mortimers were movies in lieu of the so-called trading places with us as heirs of England, which have the birthright to this land by way of our status, i.e. standing at law, as the creditor, and not the debt created by the so-called debtor based off the public side, which deals with the negotiable instruments. Whereas the Constitution clearly says that you can't use it to pay a debt. Okay, it says life and career of Edmund Randolph. Second paragraph. Upon the death of his uncle Peyton Randolph in October 1775, Randolph returned to Virginia to act as executor of the estate. You hear that? That's what the same movie is about. The estate. And while there was an elected as a representative to the 4th Virginia Convention, he would go on to serve as mayor of Williamsburg, and then as the first Attorney General of the United States under the newly formed government. He was married on August 29, 1776 to Elizabeth Nicholas, daughter of Robert C. Nicholas, and had the total of 6 children, including Peyton Randolph, governor of Virginia in 1811 to 1812. If you read here, as you can see, it has President George Washington, President preceded by Thomas Jefferson. It's right there. And Thomas and Jefferson, like I said before, mother's name was Skelton, and his father's last name was Randolph. So it shows you right there that their family name, which is unofficial, came from my grandmother's name, which was named Ruth Jefferson. My grandfather's name was Leotis Jefferson. Now check this out. You want to see a real live descent? I'm a cool thing. This is my birthright. You have to connect your birthright to your ancestors. Trying to get up. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it. Come down a little bit. That's the purpose it can come down. Let me see if I can bring it down. Okay, yeah, that's it right there. I can see it. We can see it.
Okay. That's my grandfather.
That's it. Yeah, we can see it.
You can see clearly he's Cherokee Native American. Or Misnama, Cherokee Native American. But his last name is Leotis, and Leotis comes from the term Leeds, which is in England. And this comes from the, this, which is what? Depiction. And Jefferson. When you see the family crest Jefferson, you see it has a X with a leopard on it, with 4 discs in it. And it's Jefferson. So he shows you right there, Leotis Jefferson and Ruth Jefferson, which are names derived from England. And my grandmother was born in Jewell, Mississippi. This is where Noble names come from, Jew. Now look at Jew family name and family crest. Now check this out. For all those who don't believe me, here it is for yourself. Okay. His name was who? Noble Drew Ali. House of names. Jew history, family crest, and coat of arms. There you go. You see that lion? See that Taurus bull? First house of the zodiac. Look at what it says. The name Jew, you see that, Chancellor?
Yeah, I see it real good.
Jew history and family crest and coat of arms. The name Jew came to England with the ancestors of the Jew family in the Norman conquest of 1066. The Jew family lived in Wiltshire. Then we just read that Edmund Randolph, father, Junior Edmund Randolph Jr., was born in Wiltshire, England.
Surely did. Moors, y'all better listen up at this. For those who don't think Jew Ali is a Wolfershire, i.e. English national, yes he is.
It's right
yes,
there.
no wonder why he said don't throw that family last surname away. Here we go, family.
There you go.
You Moors, you better wake up.
Right.
Boom!
They said the surname descended from Herman de Jewis, whose name translated literally as from Jewis. Early origins of the Jew family name. The surname Jew was first found in Wiltshire. You know, in Wiltshire, they got the Stonehenge there.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up. Wiltshire. The image they show you is Stonehenge. Wiltshire, where Amaric the Jews held lands as listed in the Doomsday Book of 1086. However, there is an earlier listing of Wadu the Druids living in 1050, but at an unknown location. The Anglo-Normans name claims descent from Druids, which lies near the boundary between Normandy and LD French. It's going to history. Okay. Let's see if they can get another. That's all you need. That's all you need, brother and sister. You said it right there. Its name comes from Norman Conquest. It originated in England with the ancestors of the Jew family in the name of the Norman Conquest. So you know that Norman Conquest has invaded England. So his name originated in England. Noble Jolly couldn't tell you everything. He said he had to come through what? The back door. He had to come in somebody's house to give you what you wanted so that way you can reclaim it. All right, let's take it back here. So now, we understand that we talked about Randolph family name, which is extended from my family name, which is Ruth, which is my grandmother's name, Ruth Jefferson, which are all names that are extended from England. So now, we already established that Edmund Randolph, which also related to Thomas Jefferson, which are all names that stem from England, pertaining to the real heirs of the estate, i.e. Jefferson, i.e. Geoffery. So now, I want to go over to the term Kent, Ohio, because Kent, Ohio is synonymous because the Mississippi River runs through Kent, Ohio. Now, Kent, Ohio has now, let's show you this, my grandmother's family crest. Irish. You see that tree? There's a tree right there. Now let's look at Kent, Ohio. Let's go to Kent, Ohio. Let's go down in history. That's the cell. That's the tree, the city of Kent. It says, now listen, Moors, Berbers, and every other national name who identifying with their ancestors. Look what my ancestors say. The region was originally inhabited by various tribes, American Indians, including the early mound builders. So I just showed you a picture of my grandfather. Look, straight Native American, or identify him as not as a Native American Indian, which goes back to Mississippi, which Mississippi River runs up through Kent, Ohio. It says, American Indians, including the early mound builders, around 7080, Captain Seymour Brady achieved the notoriety for his activism in the area, including his famous leap of 21 feet over the Cuyahoga River to avoid capture by the unknown band of American Indians. I wonder why. Okay, let's go to paragraph 4. It says, in early leaping up to the American Civil War, Franklin Mills was an active stop on the Underground Railroad, giving fugitive slaves shelter on their escape to Canada. There were 3 notable stops in Franklin Mills, one of which still stands as 2010 during the period from 1835 to 1839. Northern Americans of abolitionists John Brown moved to the village, operating at tannery along the Cuyahoga River in Zenith, Kent. So that shows you how Kent, Ohio had the help and assistance of the so-called slave Underground Railroad, which Harry Tubman was supported. And we can show you that Kent, Ohio, was where the mound builders, i.e. the Almacs, those who built them, their houses after what they call Moulton Bailey. If you look up Moulton Bailey, this is what the whole houses in England were made of. This is when you get to the movie what's the name? V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta, he blew up Old Bailey House, which was the old court. It's called Bailey House, which was made at what they call Moulton Bailey. Look it up, and before they hung him, you look in the left-hand corner, you'll see my flag. The House of Plantation and Anjou, with the lions and the so-called fleur-de-lis in it. That flag goes back to Andy Cobby, which goes back to 57 BC, known on the Berber calendar 894. Because there was no Gregorian calendar, because their calendar coming until 1582 under Pope Gregory XIII. Okay, let's go on a little further. Okay, so we see Kent, Ohio was inhabited by indigenous people who said they were the mound builders. Let's go to mound builders just to get a little bit more understanding. Mound builders. The various cultures collectively termed mound builders were inhabitants of North America who, during the 5,000-year period, constructed various styles of earthen mounds for religious, ceremonial burial, and elite residential purposes. These include pre-Columbian cultures of Archaic period, Woodland period, Calusa, and Adena, and Hopewell cultures, and Mississippi period, dating from roughly 3,500 BC, the construction of Watson Break, to the 16th century circuit era, and living in regions of the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, and the Mississippi River Valley, and the tributary rivers. But that shows you that how great the Mississippi was to those tribes that were living along those coasts. They were coastal people. So it's important to understand that our ancestors who were from England also practiced the same customs traditions here in North America by way of the traditions of our customs that were in England, such as the so-called English nobles. When the so-called invaders came over here, they identified us as Indians. We were still English nobles, i.e. burghers. We can prove it. How are we going to prove it? Let's go over to Kent in England. Second. Paragraph 1 and 2. Kent is a county in southeast England and one of the home counties. If you hear that, counties. Ain't no such thing as no state. United States. Federal government. They're called counties. That language is used back then and is used today. We're just not using it. It borders Great London to the northwest, Surrey to the west, and East Sussex to the southwest. The county also shares borders with Essex, along with the estuary of the River Thames, in which King James put the Great Solomon. And we know that Essex County And here, and what we identify in New Jersey is what we call Newark. Look at their flag of Newark. It's an actual scimitar, 3 scimitars. It says, shares borders with Essex along the estuary of the River Thames, connected by land via high-speed one in Dartford Crossing, and with the French Department of Pas-de-Calais through the Channel Tunnel. The county name is Maidstone. Check this out. Canterbury Cathedral in Kent has been the seat of the Archbishop of Canterbury. What color is the Canterbury bunny? Dark skinned. Why would we make a bunny chocolate? Why ain't you make it European? What is Spain called? The island of Espanol. It's called the island of the rabbits. Now we just found out that the rabbit hole runs deep. Runs deep. It says here, the Archbishop of Canterbury, leader of the Church of England. Since the conversion of England to Christianity by St. Augustine began in the 6th century, Rochester Cathedral is also in Kent, in Medway. It is the second oldest cathedral in England, with Canterbury Cathedral being the oldest, between Lining and the Strait of Dover, which separate it from the mainland Europe. Kent has seen both diplomacy and conflict, ranging from Leeds Castle peace talks of 1978 and 2004 to the Battle of Britain in World War II. Now, where I see my grandfather's name come from, the oldest, it comes from Leeds, England. So now we understand that the tribes, so-called identified as so-called Native Americans, were the so-called mound builders who built what they call motivated houses made out of straw. This same thing was did in England when we were over there as well. So now what we're going to see is that we're going to identify the so-called people who misconstrued or identify us as these people by way of discolorizing or misrepresenting who we are as a people. And this was done by St. Augustine, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Let's check this out. Augustine of Canterbury. It says, Augustine of Canterbury, born the 1/3 of the 6th century, died probably the 26th May of 604, was Bishop of Canterbury in 597. He is considered the apostle to the English and the founder of the English Church. You heard that? The so-called founder of the English Church. Now we're going to find out this is false. Augustine was the prior of a monastery in Rome with Pope Gregory the Great. When Pope Gregory the Great chose him in 597 to lead a mission. What mission was this? Usually known as the Gregorian mission to Britain to Christianize King Ethelbert and his kingdom of Kent and the Anglo-Saxon paganism. Did you hear that? Give me a second. So they was trying to convert the Anglo-Saxons of Kent to what they call Christianity through the Gregorian reform. We just understand that Kent was identified with the Kent in Ohio, which were the mound builders in lieu of on the coastals known as the Mississippi River, which now is identified by Indians. So now we understand that the first bishop our first Archbishop of Canterbury was St. Augustine, which is a relative to Roman under what they call Pope Gregory the Great, through what they call the Gregorian reform. Now, first let's find out what the Benedictine monks are. Let's find out what that is. Sorry about that. One second, brothers and sisters. I'm on it. save it. But I might just have to put it in there. Put it in. That's what I'm gonna have to.
Hold up, family, while the Grand Sheik find this, what he need.
I just had, I don't know where it went to, but now I don't want to even get right.
This is a beautiful thing, though. How everybody throwing away their English heritage, their English nobility. That'll definitely connect them back to this land, man.
This thing is just doing its own thing.
They hide this stuff.
Right from it. There you go. Bring it down. Here we go. You see the picture they're showing you here as Benedictine monks. Let's go back there first. You see the picture there? You see that?
Mm-hmm. I can see it.
The Benedictine monks, officially the Order of Saint Benedict. Now let's go here. Who they really are. Benedictine. The Benedictines, officially the Order of Saint Benedict. Catholic religious orders of monks and nuns that follow the rule of Saint Benedict. They are sometimes called the Black Monks. You hear that? The Black Monks.
It said officially the Order of the Saint Benedict.
Mm-hmm. And they are also sometimes called the Black Monk in reference to the color of his members' religious habits. So now, if the Benedictine monks were based off the color of his members' religious habits, and it says that the Archbishop of Canterbury, better known as St. Augustine, was a Benedictine monk, then that shows you that was a lie. Because he followed what they call the Gregorian Reform, which would try to change all the so-called Anglo-Saxons to Christianity who were living in Kent. Which I proved that Kent, Ohio, was the so-called Native Americans who were the so-called mound builders. Not just in here, but over in England as well. Because when you watch the movie Hobbits, Lords of the Rings, what were they living in? It was in the county called Side and little huts and houses on the side of a hill.
The Shire.
Let's go back here. Let's go back to Pope Gregory, Saint Bishop of Saint Augustine. Let's find out who this character was. Well, let's find out what the Gregorian Mission, Gregorian Reform. Because we said that, usually known as the Gregorian Mission, to Britain to Christianize King Ethelbert and his kingdom of Kent from Anglo-Saxon paganism. Okay, let's go to here. The Gregorian Mission. Okay. Gregorian Mission or Augustine Mission was a Christian mission sent by, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see
The
it.
Gregorian Mission or Augustine Mission was a Christian mission sent by Pope Gregory the Great in 596 to convert Britain's Anglo-Saxons. The mission was headed by Augustine of Canterbury. By the time of the death of the last missionary in 653, the mission had established Christianity in southern Britain. Along with the Irish and Frankish mission, it converted other parts of Britain as well as influenced the Hibernian Scottish mission. There you go, brothers and sisters. So remember the last time I was telling you about Muhammad? Being an Anglo-Saxon? Let's go to it. some light on it so I can see it. Okay, brothers and sisters, this is called The Rule of the Clan by Mark Wyman. He studied in Rutgers University constitutional law, as well as the understanding of tribes within the towns of England. So now listen what he says about the Kent in the year 597 when Pope Gregory issued the Gregorian reform or the Gregorian mission. And the Gregorian mission is to change all the Anglo-Saxons who worship their custom of their ancestors to a spook god. And we understand that they didn't put the calendar of Pope Gregory the first until 1582 by Pope Gregory the 13th, which tells the history of all the history which was created by way of falsehood. It says here, when the missionaries sent by Pope Gregory to convert the Anglo-Saxon landed in Kent in 597, the young merchant who became the prophet of Islam was a recent married man. Born around 570, Muhammad had spent his early years as a shepherd on the occasional trader against a reputation for honesty that earned him the nickname Al-Amin, the trustworthy. In 595, he wedded a prosperous businesswoman named Khadijah, who had hired him to lead trade caravans to Syria and Yemen. So as we can see right here, that he was forced to adopt a certain religion that was not his. He was an Anglo-Saxon. They called what we worship ourselves as paganism. So we didn't worship paganism. It wasn't paganism, it's the fact that we honored ourselves and praised ourselves. Why? Because we see ourselves as gods, made in the image of God. Islam, peace, Hotep. Okay, let's get back to the video. All right, so the reason why we come to this conclusion or the end of this lecture is to establish that all the rights as indigenous people here in North America is derived from us being heirs of descendants of English noblemen. And we're going to establish that the descent comes down by way of the so-called kings of England, and the first king to be established as the original king of England, who descended down from other descendants, was King Edgar the Peaceful. This king that we're going to read about in lieu of the so-called honor that was given as a saint, as a figure, which is what now is being practiced in what we call Britain today under what they call United Kingdom by Queen Elizabeth II. Those what they call royal jury that she has today passed down through descent by Edward the Confessor, who was the great-grandson of Edgar the Peaceful, which those Jews belong to him, i.e. the crown, which you're going to read right now. Crown Jews of the United Kingdom. Paragraph 3. It says the crown, let me go here first. The crown Jews of the United Kingdom, originally the crown Jews of England. You hear that? It says the crown Jews of the United Kingdom, originally the crown Jews of England, are 140 royal ceremony objects kept in the Tower of London, which include the regalia of the vestment worn by British kings and queens at their coronation. Let's go down here to the origin of where it came from. Use of regalia by monarchs in England can be traced back to medieval times. A permanent set of coronation regalia, one belonging to Edward the Confessor. Now I know y'all know by now who he was. He was the great-grandson of Edgar the Peaceful, but the son of Edward the Unready. It says, Edward the Confessor was established after he was made a saint in the 12th century by the Tudor period. Who was the Tudor period under? Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. It was useful for a monarch to inherit state regalia from his or her predecessor. Most of the present collection as whole dates from around 350 years ago when Charles II ascended to the throne. We all know who the son of was. Who? Charles I, who was the son of who? King James, who was the House of Stuart, who got it from the Tudors, who got it from the Plantagenets, who got it from the House of Plantagenet, which is my family house. Because the king who was the king we're about to read about, which was the only king crowned with the crown, was known as King Edgar Jefferson, or Geoffery, which means peaceful place. He was the only king that had a peaceful reign on his territory, which never had a war. Why? Because he was the only king to be called upon prior to the tribe living peaceful amongst themselves before they were invaded by invader tribes known as Vikings, nomadics, Berbers, who are the ones who created the confusion in the first place. It says, the medieval intruders' regalia had been either sold or melted down after the monarchy was abolished in 1648 during the English Civil War. Only 4 original items predate the Restoration. A late 12th century anointing spoon, which is the oldest object in the collection, and 3 earlier 17th century swords. Upon the Act of Union in 1707, the English crown jewels were adopted by a British monarch. The Scottish regalia are known today as the Honours of Scotland. Now check this out, brothers and sisters. Let's go to history. Middle Ages. Because that's what we want to concern ourselves with, the Middle Ages, because this is where all the stories come from, the Middle Ages. It says, by the early 5th century, the Romans had withdrawn from Britain, and the Angles and the Saxons settled. A heptarchy of new kingdoms began to emerge. One of the methods used by the original kings to solidify their authority over the territory was the use of ceremony and insignias. The tomb of the unknown king evidence suggests it may be Redwall of East Anglia, as Suttonhole provides insight into the regalia of pre-Christian Anglo-Saxon kings. Let's go a little further. In 597, right here, brother. In 597, a Benedictine monk had been sent by Pope Gregory I to start converting Penguin England to Christianity. The monk August, you hear that?
Ain't that something?
In 597, a Benedictine monk, Benedictine means the school of black monks, had been sent by Pope Gregory I to start converting pagan England to Christianity. The monk Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. Within 2 centuries, the ritual of anointing monarchs with holy oil and crowning them initially with helmets, and a Christian ceremony had been established and regalia took on a religious identity. There was still no permanent set of coronation regalia. Each monarch generally had a new set made that was usually buried with him or her upon death. In the 9th century, Europe, gold crowns in the Byzantine tradition were replaced in bronze, and gold soon became the standard material for English royal crowns. Check this out, brothers and sisters. Ascertain ascended to the throne in 924. So we know that the Kingdom of England lasted from 927 till 1706 by way of Queen Anne. So it says that Ascertain ascended to the throne in 924 and united various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to form the Kingdom of England. It says, in the earliest known depiction of an English king wearing a crown, he is shown presenting a copy of Bede's Life of St. Clifford to the saint himself. Until his reign, kings have been portrayed on coins wearing helmets and circles or wreath-like diadems in the style of Roman emperor. Let me go back. Yeah, a wreath-like diadems in the style of Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. Whether or not they wore such an item is questionable. Edgar the Peaceful was the first English king to be crowned with an actual crown, and scepter was also introduced for his coronation in 973. After crown, scepters were the most potent symbol of royal authority in medieval England. Edward the Confessor, which was his grandson, great-grandson, no, actually his grandson, by his son, King Edward the Unready. Edward the Confessor is depicted on the throne and wearing a crown and holding a scepter in the first scene of the Batiks tapestry. In 1066, Edward died without an heir, and William the Conqueror emerged as the first Norman king of England, following his victory over the English at the Battle of Hastings. There we go. There we go. So there's a full, complete history of us as English national wearing the authority as English national by way of being descendants of the crown, i.e. King Edward the Peaceful. And we are under the jurisdiction of the crown, i.e. King Edward the Peaceful, who happens to look like me, who's from the house of Plantagenet, i.e. Geoffery, i.e. Jefferson, who under the laws connected by the laws of Edward the Confessor, that all the Jews are under jurisdiction and protection of the king, and that they had no inflictions put upon them by way of foreigners infringing upon their right to land, property, tax, or any other issue dealing with debt. And to support my previous lectures, in lieu of our rights as English nobles and protected by the laws of the king pertaining to the jurisdiction or county of the state of New Jersey, which is the territory where all other states were actually derived their authority from by way of the independence of the United States, by way of the treaty signed with Paris on January the 14th, 1784. So I'm going to show you right now, for all those who believe that as an English noble, that you don't have the right to set off and discharge debt pertaining to your right as an English nobleman, i.e. English national. My Assistant Grand Chancellor, Sadiq Syed Bey, has given previous lectures pertaining to the so-called benefit as creditor pertaining to my issue in reference to the courts. Now, Jesus himself said he wasn't arguing. He said he's not going to argue with the doctrine of law. Pardon himself. He did say he was arguing the doctrine of the law in the court system. He wasn't out there marching, preaching. He was arguing with those who know law under intelligent tone, and based off that, he got his favorable reply. And the same has happened to me. So let me show you, without a shadow of a doubt, that this can be done. In order for you to receive this benefit, you must be an English noble to receive the rights as protecting of the king, i.e. from the house of Geoffery. So check this out, brothers and sisters.
The Grand Sheik gonna show y'all something here today. Just about so we can end this lecture right here. Just to show you something that this is real. You gotta be an English noble to link yourself back to this land family.
Let's see. Have you seen that, all right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So check this out more as an English national and the right as a descendant from King Edward the Peaceful and protected on the laws of his grandson, Edward the Confessor, by way of the charter given to America and the authority signed to that charter by way of the Magna Carta in 1215, signed by John I, who was descendant of Henry II, who was descendant of Geoffrey V from the house of Plantagenet, which was given to America by way of George Carteret by Queen Anne and by George Carteret from Charles II in 1640. So now that right that they had protected to the king, I'm actually using. As my Assistant Grand Sheik or Chancellor, Sadiq Syed Bey, demonstrated in lieu of the remedy or recourse that I received in lieu of understanding law and being able to demonstrate law pertaining to status and standing as an English national, the right to discharge debt. So now I know that a lot of you don't believe that the right to do this is possible, but I'm going to show you that as trustees, that the court system and banks had to act on your behalf as trustees, and I'm going to show you. As you see here, this is a communication between my bank, Bank of America. It says here for November 20th, 2018, December 28th to December 18th, 2018, concerning the so-called debtor, i.e. Clifford Jefferson L. Bay in all caps, I being a secured party creditor pertaining to the debtor in lieu of the debt created by that debtor, I have the right to securities, interest, benefits, as well as remedies pertaining to the so-called debt created by the debtor, and which I'm using in lieu of the so-called GAAP. A lot of people don't know what GAAP is. GAAP means that the general accepted accountable principles that they must use in lieu of the so-called debt created by way of your signature, because fiat notes are created by way of your signature out of thin air, which creates an asset in lieu of the so-called credit created from you, which is a liability until it's offset by way of discharge to the Department of Treasury in lieu of Joint House Resolution 192 passed in 1933. So here's the proof, brothers and sisters. it says account summary. Beginning balance on November 20th, 2018. The last time I used my bank account in lieu of depositing money or paying a bill was a minute ago. And the overdraft that was added to it was based off people trying to build agencies actually trying to collect on the debt by way of pay bill or bill pay. So now as you can see, the top line says negative $100.92. Hope y'all see that. Beginning balance November 20th, 2018. Negative balance $100.92. Then it says deposit and other additions. These are the checks issued out to the so-called parties in lieu of by way of discharge or offset, which was actually sent to the Department of Treasury, which they then sent to the bank. When they sent to the bank took it upon themselves to close my account on the public side and open it on the private side. But in lieu of those checks issued by way of my signature, which created those assets by way of me being the creditor, and in lieu of the so-called debt that's owed. And the debt that they assumed that the debtor owed, me being the creditor, had the right to create that an instrument by way of legal tender, i.e. a check. A check is a bill of exchange. So I made the check and created the Federal Reserve note by way of my signature, which created an asset liability that the bank deposited in lieu of my credit, because banks do this. They deposit on behalf of the so-called public and create credit on behalf of the public by way of the credit, by way of a check that you sign, which creates the so-called asset. So as you can see, the assets were created by way of my signature on the check, which was for what? Go down to where it says check, right here. It says it says deposit and other additions, $62,766.46. But as you see, they added the $100 negative balance, $100.92, which was a negative balance to the positive deposit of $62,766.46, because it says deposit and other additions. Now, first question I'm gonna ask, or you should ask yourself, where I get $62,000? Because as you can see, the opening statement was a negative $100.92. So based off that, I owe. So now you can see a check came in for $62,665.54. It says check, but you see, notice it says negative $62,665.54. Because why? That's on the public side. But as you can see, deposited $62,766.46. That's on the private side. I mean, on the public side. Why? Because on the public side deals with debt. The private side deals with set-off. So in order for the banks or the books to be balanced, they had to add that negative balance on the public side to now the private side, which came to $62,766.46, which once it gets to the Department of Treasury, is offsetted, which creates negative balance, as we're going to see here. See here. You see here. Second. It says service fees, 0. Then it says ending balance on December 18th, 2018, 0 balance. So now, if I deposit a check for $62,766, then the bank statement, if it wasn't allowed to be discharged, where it says 0 balance, meaning that the check is not able to be deposited because there was no funds to be deposited in the first place. No, there were funds to be deposited because it was created by way of me giving life to the Federal Reserve Note by way of my signature, as they clearly recognize by way of it saying deposit and other additions, which says that $62,766.46 plus $100 with the added $100.92, which was the negative balance already sitting in my account on the public side. But when the public side was closed down, they had to make the offset or balance the books, which created the positive $62,000 with the added $100.92 to $62,766.46. way of offsetting the account, which means that now the books are offsetted, the books are discharged, which creates a balance of $0. So it means that I don't owe anything. Because first of all, how did I get $62,000 and 666 cents, $62,665.54? Where did I get that money to write a check on behalf of? Why? Because there was no money in the first place.
It's a beautiful thing.
So it just shows you that the bank recognized my status and standing at law as an English note to be able to discharge debt in lieu of my sister credit account that's linked to the Department of Treasury. Because I have not received any notification from the Department of Treasury that the check was invalid. I have not received any notice from the Bank of America that the check was invalid. What the Bank of America did was act as trustees to close it out on the public side, as well as that debt of $100.92 that was still sitting as a liability, which was the asset created by my signature on the public side, until I was able to close that public side in lieu of my right to discharge, which they had no other alternative but to take that $100.92 to add it to the deposit of $62,000, which came to 67 or whatever the amount was, $62,766.